Hello all, welcome back to the Java Selenium video series. So in this video, we will learn how to select a value from a drop-down. Okay. As we have been following a particular website, we will continue to follow this website. Okay. So in this, you see there is a drop-down here on the top. We will try to select a value from one of these options. Now, before going into the next steps, we have to first understand how we can get the XPath of this particular drop-down. Okay. So we can right click and then say inspect. So here we can just say select. Okay. If you see here, it is given as one object found, but maybe in a different page you might have different number of select objects or drop downs. So how will you uniquely identify? Similarly, how we have been discussing so far, you have to find out a particular attribute and its value so that it can be uniquely identified. So here if you see, there is a class attribute which says product sort container. So let us add that as well. In this case, it is not required, but just for the learning process, we are adding this. Okay, so we can use this particular XPath to identify this particular drop down object. So let me just copy that. Okay, now coming back to Eclipse, there are three places where you have to make some changes to the code or maybe add code, right? So we have this products page where we are basically returning the XPaths for some of the objects. Okay, so similarly, we can add the XPath for this particular drop down object. So public static string sort XPath. We can say return. Okay, so this is the XPath we got from the inspect element. So we are returning that. Okay, now the next thing that you have to do is in browser.java. Okay, so if you see, we have been writing all the methods for each individual actions that you are performing. Similarly, we will write one more method here to perform an action of selecting a value from a drop down. So you can say public void select option by display. So here there are different ways of selecting a value from a drop down. We are going by this option where we are saying that whatever value that is visible in this drop down, we will use that as an input to select the option. Okay. Now if you see here, what are these options? These are basically the option tags that you see in the code. Okay. Ideally, if you have to perform an action on this particular option, you have to first write a click operation on the select object and then the drop down will be visible. From this, you will have to get the list of all options and then iterate through each of these options and then select the one which has the right value. So for this, you have to write a lot of logic in your Selenium code. But Selenium has given some API which will help us in not writing all this code, and you have to write maybe just a couple of statements and then it will do all this what you are actually supposed to do. Okay, so Selenium has given that API. Now let us see how we can do that. So for this function, I'm going to pass two inputs. One is XPath and one is the value that you want to use to select. Okay, so the first thing is you have to get the web element. Okay, web element by.xpath, and here I will say XP. Okay, now we got the object based on the XPath. Now Selenium has given something called select. Which will take this element as an input. Okay, Just in case if you are getting a red line under the select, you can just press Ctrl Shift O so that all the imports will be done. If you go up in the top, this is what it has to be added. Okay. Now this particular object has a method called selecting by display value. Or it is called select by visible text. Okay. Now what is the text you want to select in the drop down? The value that you are passing to the method. So we'll call it as value. Okay. Now that we wrote a method in this browser, we will use this method in our actual demo test. So now after adding the items to the shopping cart, I want to select a value in the drop down. Ideally, this might come little forward in these steps if you look at the sequence of steps that you want to do in a test scenario. But for the demonstration purpose, we are doing at the end. Browser dot select option. And for this, first you need to get the XPath. How will you get that? We have something called product page dot sort XP. And then what is the value you want to select? We can get it from the application. Suppose I want to select this price low to high. Okay, I'm copying that and I will give it here. Okay. Now let us close this. So let me just recap what all we have done. We have modified 3 files here. The first file is products page where we have written a method to get the XPath of this dropdown. Okay, that is first thing. Second thing, we have written a method in the browser object or the browser class which will help us to select a value in a dropdown. Ideally, you have to write a lot of logic to perform this action, but Selenium has given this API so that it can be easily done. And then once this method is available, we are using it in our actual script, okay, by calling that method. Now let us execute this and then see how it goes. Okay, the browser is launched. It is logging in. It has clicked on both the items and then if you see it has selected the price low or high, right? So this is how simple it is to select a value from the drop down. But if you have to write it without using the select class given by Selenium, you will have to write a lot of logic. So please avoid doing that. You can simply use this particular select class. Okay. I hope this session was useful and informative. If you like it, I would request you to kindly hit the like button of this video. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so that you will not miss any future videos. Thank you.